Hello and welcome back again to another amazing episode. This is the Diaspora Transition episode, and as you guys already know, we interview people who move back from, wherever they are in the diaspora. It could be UK, US, Brazil, name it. And then we interview them, we ask them, why do you even choose to come to Ghana or even on the continent in the first place? We ask them about their, experience living in Ghana. And then on this episode, we have here someone very special. A couple, okay, who moved to the continent with their family, okay, moving from the UK to Ghana. And without further ado, Destination Africa, right? Welcome on the show.
Thank you,
Mr. Eko and Madam Abner Richardson, right? I've been watching your videos, by the way, and I saw what you guys are doing, teaching the kids how to speak English, Chi.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, people are watching you for the first time. I know who you are briefly, but can you please introduce yourself to the people watching for the first time?
Okay. Ladies go first?
Ladies first. He put me in the hot. So firstly, thank you so much for having us today. It's an absolute honor to be here.
Thank you,
Captain Hayford. We are so proud of you. Yes, you do know us, but for your viewers, like you said, I'm Abner Richardson with my dear husband, Michael Richardson. And yes, we moved back from the UK about 3 years ago to fulfill the vision, the mission, which I know we'll be talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Akwaba.
Yeah,
So just to add to that, we're British-born Ghanaians.
Okay.
So we were both born in the UK. Lived in Ghana for a little bit during our youth and our infancy, and then the rest of our life was more or less in the UK.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then,
Wow.
3 years ago, we decided to move back with our family.
So you were born in the UK,
Yes.
and then 3 years ago you're like, yeah, bruh, we want to move to the continent. What triggered that for you guys? Why did it become so important for you to move back to the continent?
It's funny. He says 3 years, but it actually started way before that. So 3 years is when we made the physical move.
What do you mean by physical move?
Okay, so the physical move was the packing, getting everything ready, just getting the family out and saying, okay, we can finally execute the plan.
Okay.
But the previous plan before that was Michael always wanted to come home. I think the days when we were seeing each other, he made it very clear, one day, if we have children, if we don't have children, we are set to go to Ghana.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's funny because at the time, I think I was of that mindset where the Europe was where was the place to be. The West was the place to be. And I remember, I think in 2007, I came here. It was during Kufuor's time. The economy was booming. Things were doing well. And I thought, hey,
$1 to one CD.
What can I say? We weren't compared to now, but yeah. So I think I came home and I thought, this guy, he's onto something. We were back in the UK, we were doing fairly well, fitting, the stereotype of what your accomplishments should be. He was in IT, I had my own business. And then fast forward, we had children. And when we had children, we realized that it was a few things. It was, I think, one was that there weren't many images of people who looked like our children to set the example.
Wow.
And that was a deep one for us. And then secondly, we realized that they were being compromised because there's many negative stereotypes about, being black in the UK, especially growing up for black boys. We had a son first.
Okay.
So just being in that kind of environment, fast forward after we had him, we came to Ghana, and I remember asking our son what his favorite thing was about being home. And it was his dad.
He said, so we started making regular trips. Because we started teaching the children Tree in the UK, they could speak it, but to come home was just fusing it all together.
Okay.
So I think on our first family trip back, we'd been to different places at Dan, we've gone to Cape Coast and enjoyed everything. And at the end of the holiday, I said to him, I was like, oh, what did you enjoy the most about our trip? Expecting him to say, oh, when we went to sit on the crocodile, we went to the Kakum. But he said to me, what you enjoyed the most was just being surrounded by his people, hearing Tree everywhere.
Wow.
And at the time, he was 5.
And this is Inshira?
This was Asida.
Asida? Oh, wow.
5 going on 6. And it just, to me, it just said that, you know, it's intangible. Those things, like, it's priceless. To be around your people, to feel like I'm at home, and for him to eloquently put it in a way that he could understand, meant a lot to us, and we felt like, you know what, we need to act on this.
Wow.
Definitely.
Wow. So hearing him say that was what triggered you thinking about moving to the continent?
It took it to another level. It took it to another level, because I think for us, up until that point, we were very much like, oh, you know what, let's take the children back home, maybe for 2 years or so, give them that stretch. Because for us in our youth, we always spoke about it and said that living in Ghana for those few years taught us that, you know, there's life outside of the UK.
Right.
There's people who are in need, there's people who are doing very well, but it's a different world. And it allowed us to appreciate some of the benefits we had in the UK.
Okay.
And we wanted that for our children, so that we knew that they knew their roots, they knew where they were coming from.
Wow.
But after that trip, it made it seem like, you know, why should it just be for a year
or two,
3 years? Why don't we think of moving home
permanently? Wow. Wow. So you are here for good.
For good. Yeah.
Better or worse.
Well, and what's your heritage? Both are Ghanaians, right?
Yes.
Ghanaian born in the UK.
Yeah.
Right. So your parents are also in the UK, or were Ghanaian living on the continent at that time?
Okay, so my parents, it's funny, my dad came home in 81.
Okay.
Yeah, so during Rolling's time, it was really difficult, but he made it work. And I think a few years ago, he started putting it on our hearts, parents.
Wow, so you made your mom move back?
Yeah. She said, oh, no, I'm not going over here. I'm coming with you.
Wow,
so, yeah.
that's beautiful. Wow.
And for us, again, both our parents are Ghana. They both lived with us in the UK. But my dad passed away a few years.
Oh, so sorry.
I think shortly after he passed, I remember telling him that, you know, we had planned on moving back. And he was like, go for it.
Wow. Wow, so he supported the move back.
Once he passed.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Wow. Wow.
So that's the story. That's a true story.
Yeah. That is, so I wanted to know, you know, you have 3 children.
Yeah.
Growing up in the UK with these kids, how was it like? And why do you think they would appreciate or benefit more growing up on the continent compared to the UK?
Okay. I mean, Ghana is where our heart is. It's home for us.
Right.
Everything that we tried to instill in the children when we were in the UK was their roots, because, you know, I think it was Marcus Garvey who said that if you don't know where you're coming from, you're twice defeated in this race of life. And it's really important that instilling a strong foundation in your children just means that they're not going to waver wherever they decide that they will end up in the future. And what we discovered in the UK is that most ethnicities were doing that for their children. So be it Indian, the Chinese, the Italian, but even when we were at school, we would find that, you know, many of these children spoke their languages, they knew about their culture, their history, their traditions, their heritage. And you get to a certain age as a black person in the UK, or as an African person, should I say, having experienced that, you realize that you're actually compromised because there are certain things you don't know about yourself, because you don't know about your culture.
Wow.
So we had to break that cycle. And instead of constantly complaining about it, we thought it's not going to serve a purpose, sitting down, talking, complaining. First you complain, then the action. So what comes next? Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I guess going back to your question, raising them in the UK, it was Africa first, and then you're in a different environment, so to speak. So their first language was always Chi. They learned how to read it, write it, speak it. They learned about the history, the culture. And then other people started seeing that, and they also wanted it for their children. So we started Destination Africa, and we got many children together, so they didn't feel like it was just them.
Alone, yeah.
And funnily enough, sometimes we'd even take our children out, and people would hear them speaking Chi, and they would give them money. They'd be like, "Hey, okay."
Because I was so surprised hearing them speak Chi, and a fine Chi to be. And then I'm like, hey, you were born in the UK.
Yeah.
You speak good Chi that I do.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Why was it so important to make sure they understand their culture, even though they were not in Ghana at that time, but you started teaching them before moving back, right?
So, I mean, to backtrack, I learned to speak Chi when I was 30 years old.
Okay, so, 30 years old?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
30. So when we were younger, our parents used to speak to us in Fanti, but allowed us to reply back in English.
Okay.
And as we grew, as we got older, I could always hear Fanti, but it got to a point where I realized I couldn't actually speak it other than hello, and so on. And then I remember later on I met Abna, and one thing that I really appreciated about her was she could speak Twi.
Pure Ghanaian.
And that's one thing her and her mum did at home. And I remember when I met her, I said, you know what, you need to keep doing it.
Wow.
Because it's one of these things sometimes you take for granted. But when you see something is missing, you don't want someone to stop doing it because you can't do it. So from there, I remember we spoke, and when marriage was on the cards and children, we said, you know what, when the children come, we need to speak about it. And for her, she could do it. So the pressure was on you. So that's when I said, you know, I think I was 29 and a half, and I said that was on the way, and I was like, hey, time is running short. So I had to, you know, fast track, and from there, that's where the real desire and the focus, and it drove me to be very purposeful about me learning the language first, and then when the children came, to continue. Because if your children went to school and you said, oh, my children, they're learning French, and they came home and you said, oh, what French do you know? And they say, oh, can you read French? And you're like, no, I can't read it. Can you write French? No, I can't write it.
So what are you learning?
Well, but I can speak it. You're looking, you think to yourself, what French, who taught you French?
Yes.
Where are you learning this French?
Yes.
But it's okay to think that when you're learning French, but when it's acceptable. So okay, say, oh,
intro, yes.
I said, no, you know, whatever standard I have for Spanish, French, whatever language, I need to have that same standard, if not higher.
Wow.
For our language.
Wow. That is beautiful. But why have you embraced it so much? Because those on the continent, some of them, when you go to class, for example, when you speak your own language, you get punished for it until you speak the white man's language, which is English. But I see the pride in the sense of your own language. It's coming from you, you know, growing up in the UK, did you ever felt ashamed to be recognized as a Ghanaian because of the stereotype, you know, surrounding Africa at that time? And what made you so bold and still speak your Twi confidently? And how did that come about for you?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I remember in the 80s, it wasn't cool to be African. I mean, growing up in the UK, there was so many different names, like African boo-boo, African, I mean, it was all over and you would hear it. And because of that, sometimes it was reinforced. You would get it in the school playground, and then you would come home, you would hear the parents speaking Twi, but at the same time, they would turn to the children and they'd be like, what are you doing? You know, like, go and sit down, go and give me this. And even the English that they were speaking wasn't English, because at the end of the day, it's not our language.
Right.
But you found that even they had really succumbed to the pressures of wanting to conform and to come out of society.
Yes.
Exactly. So it then, in your mind, even though you're a child, you realize that indirectly and directly, you're being taught you're a second-class citizen. You have to devalue who you are in order to be able to fit in, in order to be able to be accepted. But then you see others around you who aren't English and they are very comfortable with who they are.
Right.
So then you have to realize you have to make a stance.
Right.
You have to say to yourself, our ancestors came from somewhere. They toiled, they worked for us, they sacrificed. What exactly are we doing to continue this? Are we going to conform? And if somebody is well, not even ensuring, I think if somebody is insisting that, say, you go to school, you speak vernacular, you're smacked. If somebody is insisting that your name should be a foreign name, that you should be speaking a foreign language, is that a level of control? And if that is, am I truly independent?
Right.
And if I'm not independent, then what am I passing on to my children? So it just is so deep that you have to really sit down and do a self-analysis. Look in the mirror and say to yourself, who am I? What do I stand for? How do I value myself? And how am I passing that on to the next generation? So when we got married, with Michael, it was even the names. I remember I wanted to give our children English. Everybody gives their children English names, And Michael was like, hey, Charlie, we already have an English surname. You know the fancies, like everybody has an English surname. So I remember I wanted to have the English surname. But then as time went on, we gave our children, you know, Ghanaian names. And even now I have conversations with my son. My son says, you know, you don't meet an English person and they say to you, oh, I've met a Ghanaian, so today I'm going to call myself Nana Ya.
And that's your kids saying that?
Yeah, that's what my children are saying. So it's funny, when you teach them who they are from a foundational perspective, the pride that they have in them is second to none. Yeah.
Wow. This is amazing. I think who do you thank for the way you think?
That's such a good question.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I would say growing up, my dad is very left wing. He doesn't think the way that your average, like, he'd be the one that would say to you, you know what, in Ghana, there are things that need fixing. We have been given a brain to fix this. Collectively, we have to come together as a unit. So I think him, there's so many people I can mention right now. A few friends that come to mind that really kind of opened my eyes to question critical thinking. I think that's something that isn't really encouraged in and amongst the way that we're raised.
Wow.
So yeah, my parents, my mom, my dad, and friends that we have known for a good while.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, children upbringing are very important.
Yeah.
Very, very important. In terms of confidence, did that made you confident knowing where you came from and how rich your culture is living in the UK? Did you say that helped your confidence in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah. Did you want to? Yeah.
I mean, it's a sad state of affairs in the sense that if you ask the average black child from an African country, how much do they know about their country? It'll be very little compared to what they know about England, about Europe, about America, about the Second World War, about the kings and queens of Europe. And that in itself shows you the balance of who they are.
Right.
And if you don't know about yourself, the moment you learn something about yourself, it can go one of two ways. It can either make you feel so silly and like, why don't I know this? Or it can really empower you and to be like, wow, you know what, my ancestors did something. There was something there that wasn't shared with me, and let me delve in deeper to find out more.
Wow.
So it's very empowering. I remember the first time hearing about the Okonfo-Anochie story when I was learning tree and in the class and everything in Kumewu and Kumasi.
He's a superhero.
This is good, you know? And I thought, wow, I was 30 years old, roughly, when I heard about that.
Yeah.
What difference would that make to me if I learned it when I was 5 years?
Yeah. No, you have a superhero in your country. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, but I want to ask you this. When you decided to move back with your children, you didn't send them to any school. You're like, listen, we are going to do homeschooling. Yeah. Why was that important?
So, just going back to feeling confident. See, your confidence comes from having a strong identity. And in order to establish a strong identity in a child, they have to know all about their heritage. It's funny, when we teach the children financial literacy, we teach them both in Tree and in English. And when we talk about assets in Tree is ejapadie. So ejapadie is something that your father would have left you because it's something that is heavy on his heart, it's dear to him, it's valuable to him. So that's your inheritance. When you don't give children their heritage, you're almost taking somebody else's inheritance and superimposing their inheritance over yours.
Wow.
So we learn about European history, you learn about European significant figures, yeah, you name it. And then you realize that you have been like you've been hard done by. You know, you've now got the short side of the card and you now have to make up the shortfall, basically. And then you grow up also with an identity crisis because there's a part of you that knows you're Ghanaian. And there's another part of you that's been told you have to be accepted by another part of, you know, where you live all the time. So when you're with them, you're trying to be like them. When you're with the Ghanaians, you're trying to fit in with the Ghanaians, and you've developed this split personality. You don't quite know where you fit in. But when you have a strong identity, you don't have a crisis. So you go everywhere with your head held high, and that's you done.
Wow.
And there was one thing my daughter said that I have to say. She said, you never take an apple and plant the seeds where you would plant an orange, because an apple is always going to be an apple. So why try to get the orange to conform to be like the apple?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're trying to say the Ghana education system is trying to make you...
If they're beating us for speaking our own language, we have a long way to go.
I think what you guys, not that I think, I know what you guys are doing on the continent is going to make a huge impact. You know,
thank you.
You are about to launch a new YouTube channel focusing on children upbringing and then parenting as well. Can you speak to me more about that and why you guys decided to do that? Because I saw your kids are enriched with the knowledge of their identity, culture, and everything. And I think you want to share that, right?
Absolutely.
So let's hear it. Why was it so important for you?
Okay, all right.
So for us, homeschooling was something we stumbled upon. We stumbled upon, I think, at the time, I was running her business, I was working in IT, and I said I was getting to an age where he was ready for school and everything. And I remember where we were living at the time was a temporary time, and we knew that we wouldn't be there for long. So we were getting ready for the school. We picked a school that we felt was the right one, and you know what was suitable for us. And I remember we went to the school, we spoke to the headmaster, and what he said just didn't fill us with much confidence. Because up until that point, we'd been spending time with him every day, teaching him his alphabet. He could read 2 3-letter words at a time. And I said to him, "Oh, what would you do for my son since he knows all these things? Because that's what you'll be teaching for the whole first year."
Right.
And his response just didn't fill me with any confidence. All you do is probably put him to one side. There's children who don't know the alphabet. You'll work on them, the ones who have been potty trained. And for a whole year, he'll be sitting there doing nothing whilst I'm paying extra tuition and everything. I'll probably have to come home after work, after being tired, to teach him. And I remember one day she said, "You know what? I think I'm going to homeschool the children." I think I barely knew what homeschool was at the time. I was like, "Okay, home and school. Okay, that means you're not going to school." And I think from there, I told her, I said, "Are you serious? You're going to give up the business to do this?" And she was like, "Yes." I said, "You know, take a week off. Really take time off. Think about everything." Which she did, and she came back and said she still wanted to. She was like, "You know what? I could have this business and everything, but my Jap idea, like my legacy would be my children."
Wow.
And she wanted to give her best to ensure that the children gain their best education. So from there, that's how we got into homeschooling. So it started off like that, and coming to Ghana, it was just a natural transition because we got into it. We'd understood and we found our feet in it. We knew what was important for us as a family and for the children as individuals, and we fused that with other benefits in brackets of the schooling system and tuition system. So,
what would you say has been the greatest difference, right, improvements that you saw in your children after that transition from public school to homeschooling? What did you do that?
Okay, our children, funnily enough, have never been to school.
Yeah, they never.
Never?
Yeah, no.
Okay, so you don't have anything to school?
No, other than when we were at school. And also...
I can tell you, your last born, the way he speaks and locating and knowing different countries' names, the capital city, is fascinating. I don't know any, few at that age who can do that. So I think the homeschooling is really, really working.
Oh,
and
bless
I think
you.
it has helped them a lot, their confidence. I spoke to them, hopefully one day I'll speak to them on camera.
Yeah.
But I think it's really great.
Oh, bless
I wish
you.
I was homeschooled. But
Yeah. It's never too late. We always say every day is a school day. We're still learning. Yeah.
Wow.
We're still learning.
Wow.
So, yeah. But I think if we're to talk about the improvements, it's I think we look at education as a holistic experience, isn't it? Yeah. And it's not just limited to academics. I think when you look at the word education in the dictionary, it's not even just academics. It's learning, it's an ongoing process of acquiring knowledge, be it academic, be it agricultural, be it financial. And because the world is ever evolving, now we're in a financial crisis. We're going to have to learn how to grow our food. We're going to have to learn how to start a business, and it's not necessarily limited to waiting till you're a certain age. So why not apply those things that are needed in the children that you know are really going to benefit the nation, the community, and then you have that Ubuntu spirit as well. You know, I am because you are you are because I am, and that's what's really going to help grow the system.
Wow.
So
much knowledge. Well, let me ask, let's backtrack a little bit. In the UK, what were you doing? You were in IT, and you were...
I had a hair salon.
Hair salon. Okay,
Yeah, I had a hair salon. So I was, fashion, magazines, TV, that route.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you left everything behind, and then you moved to Ghana.
Yeah.
How's Ghana treating you?
Ghana, yeah. Let's be honest, it's terrible. It's terrible. No.
Stop.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you know, what did we expect? Let's go back to our expectations.
Okay.
So moving back, we did our homework.
Okay.
We spoke to people. When you come on holiday, it's much more different to when you come to live.
Move in. Yeah.
And we knew that transition was going to be different because even when you come on holiday, people have time for you.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, let's go here. They'll be taking you here. You come and you live. People have things to do. It's business as usual.
Next week.
So we really wanted to find out how we would be able to fit into the system and ground ourselves, ground our feet. So before we came, we found out about utility bills. Actually, that was Michael's brainchild.
Yeah. We stepped back. I think we went around to see family members, cousins, friends, some people who had made the move years before, and family members who lived in Ghana most of their life.
Wow.
Just to ask them, what are they doing? What businesses are they doing? How's it working? What transitions in governments have affected their businesses, ideas, and so on? How do they buffer themselves against some of the shocks?
So a lot of research.
Yeah.
I remember one of our trips, I went to the shopping centers. I went to some of the big name ones. And I was there taking pictures of the prices
to compare
to see how far will my budget stretch.
Wow.
You know, thinking, what am I going to do for work? What can I do? What do I want to do? Immigrating, you do get a chance to at least decide. So all these things, from the very macro to the bigger picture, they say, you know, the weight falls on daddy's shoulders. So if you don't think about these things or prepare as best as you can, nobody wants their family to burn and crash or to feel like you have to return back because you didn't plan as best as you could. So, so
I know moving is not easy. Even moving one person is not easy, but the whole family. What would you say was something that most challenge you faced transition from the UK to Ghana? What was this challenge that kind of, you know, bothered you guys a little bit trying to move to the continent?
Oh. If above all else, I think it may have been finding activities that would really fit the children's interests.
Okay.
Because Ghana is one of these places, it's fertile ground, it's developing. There are people moving in now. So they are coming in with different ideas, and you may have children back in the UK who do varied things, from horse riding to gymnastics, swimming.
Museum trips.
Exactly, yeah. That was our life in the UK. And coming here, you wonder, how are we going to be able to supplement the children with those activities? But, you know, a drowning man will catch a straw. And when we came here, we figured out that we have to find these things. And there are people out here doing these things. Even homeschooling, we thought, how are we going to find a homeschooling community? And there's a large homeschooling community in Accra. And for the things that haven't been done yet, well, you know, you either supplement them with something else, you wait, or you even try to create them because it's a business opportunity.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I think that was our biggest worry, but it's not really much of a worry.
Wow. Talking about business opportunity, Ghana is not cheap now.
Oh, gosh. Probably the worst economy.
How are you guys, you know, living or surviving in Ghana? Are you guys living in Ghana or surviving? Or?
We're trying to do both, aren't we?
We're living and we're surviving, just like everyone else.
Let's talk about what people want to move back to the continent. Most of the time they want to come do business because you have to be able to sustain yourself while being here. What are you currently working on, or how do you sustain yourself while being here? And then also advice to people who want to move back. What kind of opportunities do you see here that you think they can also capitalize on if they want to make a move like
we did? Okay, definitely.
So, in terms of how we survive, so one thing about us is we planned very well before we came. So we decided what we wanted to do. If I was going to continue in IT, whether Avner would do hairdressing, whether we'll start totally different business ventures. I remember we started with a list of about 9 or 10 different business ideas.
Wow.
And through a list of elimination, we crossed them out for one reason or another, whether financial capital was too much, whether it would take too much time away from the children, whether it would drag us out to the village more than we wanted. All these ideas we thought through. We'll need more resources, we need more X, Y, and Z. Some you could start in 5 years' time. What can you do today? And that tied into some of the advice that we were given. Get something that would tick you over, give you a bit of income, allow you to see the marketplace. And also some of the things, what would happen if what you think would take off doesn't take off? Or what happens if it doesn't take off in 6 months, but in a year's time or in 2 years' time, you have enough finance to sustain you. So these were just some of the questions that was constantly going on.
So where was this advice coming from?
It was through friends. It was through friends and family.
Okay. I've got to ask you, how did they react though when you told them I've left the UK behind and I'm in paradise, Ghana? Did they? They were like, okay.
They got the warning. We sent the memo.
Yep. Everyone received the memo.
Years ahead, because two things. We said we wanted to do it, and I always like to be held accountable where possible. And we said to ourselves, I think we told everyone 2020, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Originally we said 2019.
No, we told them 2020. We left early. We left a bit early.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So my thing was to be held accountable. We said we were going to do this. And you know what? Good friends, I told them, this is our plan. This is what we want to do. So that, you know what, a year or two come by, you're like, hey, what? I can't do it. What happened to that plan? It just went quiet. Or even if it does go quiet, at least explain why it went quiet. Oh, I needed more finances. Oh, I needed more time to plan X, Y, or Z. But I always like to be held accountable, and it just helps you to keep, one step at a time, and then you'll get to your destination.
Wow. Did you say the friends you had on the ground helped you with exactly what you do to kind of help you, live in Ghana?
They helped in the sense of providing the advice.
Okay.
But there was never the understanding that you have to take with the advice and make sure you can manage your situation as best as possible.
Wow. That's very interesting. I'm enjoying your story. Guys, if you're enjoying it too, please like the video, subscribe, share to friends and family. Don't be selfish, because this is an amazing episode. So much knowledge. So much knowledge.
Thank you.
And thank you so much. I have a few questions that I want to ask. I want you to point out one business that you think, if someone watching right now, if they come onto the continent and invest right now, they would never run at a loss. One business.
That's a very good question. I think agriculture was a big one.
Agriculture?
Okay. A year ago. Many forms of agriculture. I think because we work with children, the business space with children is huge, huge. So if somebody, has the idea, the means, the capital to start something or to invest in a business like a gymnasium for children, what do you call those? Attractions, like fair attractions, that kind of thing. Parks, per se, where you provide different attractions for children. I think that would really, really work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. Guys, take this. It's free. Okay. Act on it.
Free of charge.
Yeah. Wow.
And to add to that, I'll just say, whatever you do, just do it well. Do it well. I mean, Ghana isn't known for its customer service. It's not known for delivering from end to end. And whatever service you provide, if you provide it to the highest global standards, at the right price, you would always have an audience or a market.
Wow, you think is it possible to make it on the continent here in Ghana?
It's funny, I was speaking to a cousin of ours last week. He's lived in America for 20 years. He said he came here and he went to a conference. And at this conference, there were Indians, there were Chinese, you name it. And as he got talking to them, he asked them, what brought you to Ghana? And they all said to him, it was in Ghana that they made their first million. Everything is here. The resources are here. Investment is here. You just have to be able to spot an opportunity and take it and run with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's possible to be a millionaire in Ghana here?
Yeah. That's why we see them all around.
So why do you think we grew up, most of the African youth thinking we have to go to UK, US before we make it? Why do you think that is?
I think,
I think, and just to go back on that last question, and it touches onto the one you just asked. A lot of it has to do with mindset. I remember someone told me a story about when Christopher Columbus arrived in the Americas. You know, they burnt their boats. They said, "We're not going back." And sometimes that mindset helps a lot. If you decide that I'm going to be a success, I'm going to make it, whether the ground is super fertile or whether it's arid and dry, that mindset plays a massive part in the success of what you do.
Wow, wow. If you guys are given a chance, right, to change just one thing on the continent, or even here in Ghana, what would that one thing be?
I think for me, it would be just that. It would be mindset.
Mindset.
Yeah.
How would you change the mindset?
You know, there's a saying, my dad has a saying. He says, "Sevio kwasia nenitia na gronigu." That saying. I think there is a definite intention in selling us a dream to go abroad, to build somebody else's economy, to go abroad and leave yours behind. And it's almost like when you're raising your children, if you dedicate that time to somebody else's children, their children will benefit. They would reap, you know, the fruits of everything you're giving them, but then your children would be hard done by. Whereas if you focus on your children in your home, it will just bear fruit. Yeah. So knowing and understanding the value of who you are, what you have, where, you know, your inhabitants and everything. If we could really see what we had for what it is, I think the continent would be a completely different place. Yeah.
Wow. I'll add one.
Go on.
Mine would be time. Time.
Okay.
I feel that sometimes, I don't know, because sometimes the weather is so good. You know, sometimes to be from what? And because of that, there's a slight laid back approach to time. There isn't that sense that time waits for no man. And because of that, we're delayed. We're a bit slow. We're
laid back,
relaxed with life, happy with the way things are. Where some people who don't have that time, when they realize time is of the essence, push themselves, strive to make sure they improve whatever situation is around them. So for me, if there was that sense of urgency with time to improve what they can improve today.
Okay, so I wanted to ask, do you think how Ghanaians take time is somehow impeding growth, you know, in this country?
Yes, without a doubt, without a doubt. I remember one day I went up to the Chancellor's office at the university, and there was an area which they said the public couldn't go. So I asked the security guy, I said, why can't we go here? He's like, I can't tell you. He's like, but you need to come back tomorrow and ask the information office. The information office will tell you. I said, do you know? And he's like, yes, he knows, but he can't tell you. It's the information office that tells you, and they're only open on Mondays, and this was a Sunday. I was like, so you want me to come back on another day to go and ask the information office why I can't go to this place today? And he's like, well, that's the protocol, and like he had no regard for my time. For me to have to stop everything just to find this little bit of information. And that's something small. In a day of 20, every human being has 24 hours.
Wow.
But how you use your 24 hours varies between people. And as I say, if you decide I'm going to spend half an hour today to improve myself, to better myself, and someone says they're going to spend 5, one day that's 30 minutes. In 1 week, that's 3 hours, 3.5 hours. To the person who did 5 minutes, that's 35 minutes. In a month, imagine. In 6 months, imagine. In 1 year, in 10 years,
half of your life is gone.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you think this occur in our upbringing as children, growing up, and how we don't even take time seriously? Do you think it started when we were growing up as children? Because it's the majority of the citizens as Ghanaians who have this attitude. Do you think it's our upbringing?
Yeah, I mean, all habits are formed in its infancy. You know, again, I always go back to Proverbs. They say, and that's the idea. You straighten a tree as it's growing, because once it's grown, that's it. There's nothing you can do about it.
Wow.
So our approach and our attitude that we have to everything comes from the environment that nurtures us, and then you just become a product of your environment. So yeah, definitely, it's what we see our elders do. It's what we see people around us do. You just follow suit. I remember when my dad first came, talking about what you said, he got a job at VRA. And again, it was in the 80s. He got dressed in his political suit. He was ready. He went, he got there. And I think he was supposed to start at 9 o'clock. He's outside the door, 9 o'clock, nobody shows up. 10 o'clock, 11, that's when somebody's coming to open the door.
Wow.
So yeah, he's like, what's going on? I'm supposed to start work today, 9 o'clock. The person said to him, well, my bro, I'm almost here 9 o'clock. If it's that your UK that you start at 9 o'clock, it's not here. So I think it's just this kind of lackadaisical, laid-back mentality that it's going to get done, you know, regardless, it will get done. Meanwhile, we live in a global village now. So how do you really compete when people are actually taking their time seriously and they're valuing, you know, the time that they have to do what they do, and we're not valuing it? So again, these are things that I think really need to be taught. You know, time management, social awareness, critical thinking. So these are the things that I think really need to be taught in the schools. You know, time management, social awareness, critical thinking, the things that would really take you through to adulthood, that if it's not fostered when you're young, you've almost missed the bar as an adult. Yeah.
But they say time is money, but then we don't take our time seriously.
But we want the money. Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
So that's why it was so important for you to establish this amazing platform, Destination Africa, and even, you know, bring your kids on there, teach them, have these classes, acting. Why was it so important for you guys to, you know, develop this channel and do what you do on the channel?
Okay. So, I mean, as we touched on the homeschooling journey a bit, Destination Africa spawned off a lot of what we're doing at home with the homeschooling, with the education, with the identity, with teaching them about themselves, entrepreneurship and all these things. And then we brought it to the community, in the community space in the UK, where we open it not just to Ghanaians, but to any black, mixed race family, and even some white families joined. Just to learn more.
So it was
about
not
Africa.
born in Ghana, it was born in the UK.
Yeah, we left quite a big community of parents and children in the UK that we were teaching before we came
That's
home.
amazing. So you had other children come in, from other races and ethnicity.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I think you teach them some cultural, Ghanaian culture.
Yep. So we teach them everything to do with the culture, the language, the heritage, traditions. And then we also teach them the things they don't learn in school. So you have 5-year-olds who can teach you about entrepreneurship, financial literacy, loans, debt, life skills like how to administer CPR, you know, what would you do, first aid, if you saw somebody having a stroke or a heart attack, that kind of thing. I remember there was a Turkish person that actually enrolled his children. And we asked, the children were about 5 and 3, I think, yeah. And we asked him, why have you enrolled your children? It's an African, you know, centered educational system. And he said, oh, his 5-year-old son said to him when he's older, he wants to do business in Africa.
Wow.
So this is the level of foresight that,
he got the memo.
He got the memo. He got
preparing.
This is it, yeah. Wow. But fundamental, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's how Destination Africa started and continued. And we said, you know, our vision is to birth and help to build the learners of today and the leaders of tomorrow. And all of that was encompassed, and we realized there was an element for the parents. You know, there's a part of parenting which is very hard, very tough. And, you know, they say, Abla's mom always used to say, childbirth or having children is the only thing you get the certificate for before you've done the work.
It's true.
And lots of people are stuck. But when you're stuck, you can't put your hand up and ask the teacher, or who's there to ask? So we decided we wanted to create this platform to allow parents to have the opportunity to find out, you know, how can I improve what I'm doing? Because wherever you are in your parenting journey, it's a journey. It's not one stop. There's always something you can do to improve. There's always a different mindset, a different approach. And we don't have all the answers, but we've created this platform to allow people to learn, to gain, to grow, to evolve, and to expand. So that's what Destination Africa is.
Yes, and I heard there's something happening tomorrow.
There is something.
Something special.
Something very special. So fortunately enough, we are launching the parenting channel tomorrow.
Wow.
And thank you so much. Thank you. And it's for the community. It's for the village. They say it takes a village to raise a child.
Right.
One thing Michael mentioned was why we started Destination Africa. Another thing I wanted to add to what he said was we realize that as a community, we don't trust each other when we get to a certain stage. So in the UK, for example, if you're looking for a plumber, if you find a Ghanaian plumber, the first thing you're thinking is, hey, mediate. No, I can't. I can't trust him. There's so many reasons why you don't want to entrust what you have to another Ghanaian or to your fellow African, to your fellow Caribbean. Whereas other communities we find tend to make sure that their money is spent within their community, and if they can't find anybody, then they go exactly. So we started asking ourselves, why is it? What is that in us that we really don't? We just lack that trust for one another.
Self-hate.
It's self-hate. That's exactly what it is.
Wow.
And we've been taught that from such a young age. But more so, I think because we're taught in somebody else's language, everything that we're taught is in somebody else's language. Then we have their history, then we have their ideals and everything. We're not really sitting down to think, what is the stopgap? And then at the same time, we're complaining a lot about our leaders, what they're not doing for us, how corrupt they are. But we forget that these children that we're raising are the ones who will be leading us in a very short space in time.
Wow, they are future leaders.
They're future leaders. So if we don't instill them with that foundation of trust, of understanding that you have to go to your brother, to go to your brother, to go to your brother, to build the community, to build the economy, we're always going to be playing second fiddle. And then, of course, like Michael said, the parents don't know how to navigate that, because African parenting is really interesting. There's that part where everybody wants a child. They want to tick that box to say, we've done it, we've had children. And then there's that other part where the preparation isn't really there. And then there's a lot of traumas that we go through as a society. Things like, because you're light-skinned, you're better. Because you're academic, you're better. Because you're a male, you're better than being a female. And you don't question a lot of these things. And it's what's holding us back. So you have to, I think, ask yourself, what can we do to help ourselves, again, like you said, before we outsource and ask the questions on the outside.
We have to first believe it's possible to make it on the continent.
This is it,
You have to burn the
It looks like we hate ourselves. When I was living in China, right? If you say you're an African and you're looking for a job, it will take you ages. Wow. Sometimes you have to lie and pretend you are a Canadian. And then you slay your English before you get a job.
Look at that. Look at that.
We subconsciously, we don't care saying, oh, I'm American, I'm this, or we identify with other places just to get some minor things. But if we identify as our own Africans and we develop, that will be the case for you to change your accent. You will be the top priority.
You'll be proud.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So this is why we started the channel, in the hope that, you're not made to feel like you're alone. When you parent, you're also made to believe you can't be sharing what's the hardships of your parenting with somebody else. So that as soon as he won't go and say,
But when you say that, you say it takes a community a village to grow your children, right? But you might get in trouble. I don't know, it's latest. Before it was not like that. Your neighbor can discipline your child. But now it's not that. So how does that work?
So a village isn't just your direct
input,
your direct neighbors. It's the community that you live in. So sometimes, we're in a modern age. If the village, as it was traditionally seen, was a Krasi by the fire stories and that small community, but now we have a global village. I have people who I'm closer to who live 3,000 miles away than my next door neighbors, and it's within that community and the different spaces within that community that we raise our children. Because my son may be more influenced by his uncle's child halfway across the world than he is than the boy next door. So it's within those spaces, within those villages, we must raise our children.
Amazing.
Definitely.
If you have a message for the diasporans, African diasporans, what would that message be?
Wow, that's a really good one. On two levels, I think I would say the time has come. The time has come for us to fully complete what our parents started. Our parents, despite all the odds, went to foreign countries that they knew nothing about, where there was a lot of prejudice, a lot of resentment. They went there in cold conditions, not just weather-wise, but the way they were received, and they made it work. However, they had parents who had parents before them who started something for us, gave us that foundation, and it's come full 360. Let's come back home and rebuild what they started.
Wow.
Yes, I would say that now is the time. And in regards to continuing what they did, I would say, when we say it takes a village to raise a child, it could be your brother who is now a single father, your sister who is struggling with financial issues, who needs help with a child who's talking back, couples who are facing divorce, whatever it may be. Let's get together as a community to really help one another out. And we also have resources on the channel where the children fill out questionnaires. So sometimes children cannot always express themselves, but we have questionnaires where they can fill out how confident they feel, why they don't feel confident. So you can sit down, have a conversation with that child and make that parenting journey easier. But it means on the whole, the community will benefit.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Let me backtrack a little bit. How do people join? How do they join if they want to, join your program?
Okay, so the channel is Destination Africa Group TV. Yeah, guys, once you subscribe to his channel,
you should go there, because I just did a video with my dad on their channel. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that video. Actually, it
was so powerful. Guys, we now know where this guy gets his brains from. Definitely. So when it airs, you have to watch it.
You have to. Please subscribe. Go check them out. They're amazing on the content. And yeah, back to you.
Oh, cool. For me, I would say be prepared to mentally burn that bridge. You know, just the way most of you decided in the diaspora that, you know what, I wanted a profession. I wanted a certain life for myself. And certain things, obviously out of your control, but certain things are in your control. And what is in your control, it's for you to do something about and to make that desire. For us, we decided that, you know what, once we're here, we're going to make it work. One way or another. If I've got to eat banku for a week, I'll do it. If I have to cut some privileges or some luxuries to make it through, I will do it. Because ultimately I'm doing it for my children. Wow. I'm doing it for my children's children. And somebody did it for me. They pushed for me. And it's my time to ensure that I push, not only for my children, but for the community in which I'm in, for the nation in which I'm in, and for the continent in which I'm in. If Africa goes well, and it goes well for me, it will go well for you as well. But if it doesn't go well, it won't go well for me, my children, or your children. So if you can, join.
Wow, bravo.
Thank you so much for talking to me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Yeah.
We have to do it again.
Yeah. We'll bring the children. Today I was in 2 minds. I was like, should I go and get them? Should I go and get them? But yeah, no, we'll do this again. We'll definitely do this again.
Before we sign off, right?
Yeah.
Would you say it's been all worth it to you moving to the continent?
Resoundingly.
A resounding Annie.
Annie, yeah. Annie. Do you want a reason why? Or?
Yeah, I mean, someone commented a long time ago, I think a couple of months, I made an interview with a guest on the show, and it's like, Africa is the dreamland, is a paradise. Yeah. And it's like, nah, we are in the paradise. UK is a paradise, he said. And I'm like, It's like, no, he's mistaken. Because I'm living on the 2-acre land. I had no one coming down to my throats. So he felt free, but someone who was in the UK is like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. So he was coming across like as if he made a bad decision for himself moving to the continent. Yeah. So I want to be sure, okay, you guys know what you're doing. Yeah. You moved for a good reason, not because for yourself, but your children's and their future. So I want to ask you again, you moved to the continent, Ghana, has it been worth it for you? The purpose, has it been worth it?
Okay, I'll go first. I'll go
Ladies
first.
first.
Okay. I think one of the things as a people we don't really look at and we don't really consider is that when your home is correct, when everything is right in the environment that you naturally should be existing in, if everything is correct there, you have no reason to leave. So when you take an animal out of its natural habitat, it's very hard for the animal to thrive, for the animal to survive, for the animal to just be. So this is why you find many animals in the wildlife, they're just comfortable. They are, because, you know, they're with who they're supposed to be. They're in their environment, exactly. So our parents going over to foreign lands was something very difficult. And they didn't go there by accident. Yes, they went there to seek a better life, but they were also allowed in because they were there to serve that country a purpose. So I don't think we should get it confused in saying that we're the only ones who benefited from that. They also needed us to be able to allow their country to grow and to flourish. Before Africans went to Europe, it wasn't what we see it today. We did a lot to build.
You're trying to say Africa made Europe what it is?
Yeah, I think even Europa is named after a black queen. Wow. I mean, we've done a lot to establish what they have.
Wow.
Now, if we have the acumen, if we have the intelligence to be able to do that on somebody else's land, why leave where you're from? Your natural habitat, your natural environment. If we can come together and make this grow and make this work, in all honesty, we have the most respect for others. But when there's work to be done on your soil and on your turf, we have to come together as a community to do it together.
Wow.
That's it, yeah.
So there's no regrets?
No regrets.
Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. This has been an amazing experience.
And thank you for, you know, allowing me to speak to you and sharing your story with my audience. It really means a lot to us.
It works both ways. Yeah. The feeling is definitely mutual. Yeah.
So guys, if you did enjoy, please like the video, subscribe, share to friends and family. So we also enjoy it too. And I'm going to leave their YouTube channel on the screen. And please, the link will be in the description as well. Go check them out and see what they are doing on the continent. And yeah, if you want to be the next, you know, to share your story on this amazing platform, I'm going to leave the email on the screen. Please send me an email and I'll reach out to you, and then you will be the next to share your story with on this platform. So thank you so much for watching, and let's say bye-bye to them.
Oh,
okay.
Until
Bye,
next time, bye.